They say friendship and love are the two strongest bonds in life. But what happens when the two collide? I never thought I'd find out the hard way. My name's Adam, and for as long as I can remember, Ryan was more than a best friend to me. He was like a brother. We grew up on the same street, shared the same dreams, even fell for the same kind of girls. But I never imagined the one girl who stole my heart would also become the one who'd tear us apart. It all started 2 years ago, on a rainy evening at a friend's party. I wasn't even planning to go, but Ryan dragged me there. That's where I met Emily. Bright eyes, soft laughter, the kind of presence that quieted a crowded room. I still remember the first time she smiled at me. It felt like time slowed down. Ryan noticed it too. "Bro, she's looking at you," he whispered with that mischievous grin. "Don't start," I said, trying to play it cool. But deep down, something sparked. One conversation turned into two, and soon Emily and I were inseparable. Late-night calls, long walks, and quiet moments under city lights. It all felt real easy, right? Ryan was happy for me. Or at least, that's what I believed. He was always around, helping me plan surprises for her, cracking jokes whenever things got tense, being the supportive friend every guy wishes for. Emily adored him too, but I didn't think much of it. Why would I? He was my best friend. Months went by, and love felt steady. But sometimes, it's in the little details where betrayal begins. I remember one night, clearly, Emily and I had an argument over something small. She canceled our dinner plans because of work. Frustrated, I called Ryan to vent. "Man, she's been distant lately," I said. Ryan paused. "Maybe she just needs space. You know how girls are when stressed. Don't overthink it." His calm tone soothed me. I trusted him, always had. But later that night, Emily didn't pick up any of my calls. The next morning, she apologized, saying she was exhausted and had fallen asleep early. I believed her, but there was something off about her eyes, the way they avoided mine, the faint hesitation in her smile. Ryan and I kept hanging out, though I noticed subtle changes. He'd get defensive when I mentioned Emily, or suddenly end calls when I joined. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just paranoid. After all, who suspects their best friend? Then came her birthday. I had planned a surprise dinner, candles, and her favorite song playing in the background. But Ryan offered to help, saying, "Let me distract her while you set it up." He took her out for coffee, and I waited, nervous but excited. Hours passed. My texts went unanswered. The food went cold. When she finally showed up, her hair was a mess, and her lipstick slightly smudged, not like her usual polished self. "Sorry," she said softly. "Ryan's car broke down, and we had to wait for a tow truck." Ryan arrived a few minutes later, all smiles, acting like nothing was wrong. I wanted to believe the story. But something inside me cracked that night. Over the next few weeks, distance grew like a wall I couldn't break. Emily became emotionally unreachable. And Ryan? He became her constant shadow. Whenever I called, she'd say, "Ryan dropped by to check on me," or "Ryan helped me fix my laptop." I want to confront him, but friendship can blind you more than love ever can. Then one afternoon, while scrolling through social media, I saw it, a photo Emily posted on her story. Just a reflection in a coffee shop window, but clear enough. Her smile, Ryan's jacket, and his reflection sitting across from her. My chest tightened. I stared at that picture for minutes, trying to convince myself I was wrong. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe I was imagining things. That night, I called him. "You were with Emily today?" "Yeah," he said casually. "She needed help with some errands. You know how she gets overwhelmed." I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe the words. But his tone, it had a hint of something new. Confidence. Possession. "Ryan," I said quietly, "is there something I should know?" He laughed. "Come on, man. Don't be that guy. She's your girl." But his laugh didn't reach his eyes when I saw him the next day. That weekend, Emily canceled our dinner again. I drove to her apartment anyway. Something in me needed to see her. I parked outside, my heart pounding. Through the curtains, I saw two silhouettes. One was hers, familiar, graceful. The other was tall, broad-shouldered, unmistakably Ryan. My stomach turned cold. I didn't knock. I didn't call. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Later that night, I received a text from Emily. We need to talk. I didn't sleep. Every second stretched into eternity. When we met the next day, her eyes were full of guilt, her voice trembling. Adam, she whispered, I never meant for this to happen. And that's when I realized I'd already lost her, not to fate, not to distance, but to the one person I trusted most. As she spoke, I couldn't even hear the words anymore. My mind was screaming, how could he, how could she? Ryan, my brother, my best friend, the one I defend with my life, now the reason I felt dead inside. I left without saying another word, because sometimes silence screams louder than betrayal itself. That night, I sat alone staring at my reflection in the mirror, realizing that the man looking back wasn't the same anymore. Something inside me broke, but somewhere deep within a spark also lit. A small voice saying, this isn't your end. The days after Emily's confession blurred into each other. Morning, night, weekday, weekend. They all felt the same. Empty. I'd wake up and stare at my phone, half expecting a message from Ryan. Some explanation that would make sense of it all. But nothing came. Not a single call. Not even guilt. When betrayal hits you from the outside, you fight back. When it comes from the people you love, you just freeze. I remember sitting on the park bench where Ryan and I used to hang out after work. That same place where we talk about everything. Our dreams, our plans, even the women we thought we'd marry someday. Now it felt like a graveyard of promises. That evening, my sister showed up unannounced. You look terrible, she said bluntly, sitting beside me. I'm fine, I muttered. No, you're not. She sighed, handed me a cup of coffee. Adam, I know what happened. Mom told me Emily came by. I clenched my jaw. I don't want to talk about her. It's not just about her, she said softly. It's about you. You let people take parts of you and never demand them back. Her words stung because they were true. For years, I'd been the peacekeeper, the guy who forgave easily, who never wanted conflict. But maybe that's how betrayal found me, through the cracks of my silence. That night, I finally opened my messages. There were still old texts from Ryan. Bro, can't wait for your wedding. You're lucky, man. Emily's a keeper. Each word cut like glass. My hand trembled as I typed. You could have told me the truth. He replied after 2 hours. It just happened, Adam. We didn't plan it. I'm sorry. Sorry. One word that people use to erase entire storms. I want to call him. To yell. To curse. To demand why. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something. No answer would heal what was already broken. The next few weeks, I avoided both of them, deleted their photos, ignored mutual friends, stopped going to places we used to hang out. But fate, or maybe cruelty, had other plans. It was a Sunday morning when I ran into them at a cafe downtown. Emily's hand was in his. Ryan froze when he saw me. Adam, she whispered, her face pale. Ryan stepped forward, trying to act calm. Hey, man, can we talk? Talk, I said, my voice low but trembling. Now you want to talk? People were watching, but I didn't care. The air was thick with things unsaid. Ryan lowered his eyes. I didn't mean for it to go this way. We tried to fight it. Fight it? I almost laughed. You mean sneak around behind my back while pretending to be my friend? Emily looked down, tears glistening in her eyes. Please don't make this harder. Harder? I said, stepping closer. You already made it impossible. The manager came over, asking if everything was all right. I just shook my head, walked out, and never looked back. Outside, the world looked the same. Cars passing, people smiling, but inside, everything had shifted. That night, I went to the gym for the first time in months. I hit the punching bag, like it was every memory I wanted to erase. Every lie, every broken promise. Each strike made me feel something again. Pain, yes, but also control. One evening, I got a text from Ryan again. I know you hate me, but I hope someday you'll understand. Emily and I were serious. I stared at the message. My first instinct was rage. But then I realized I didn't feel hatred anymore. I just felt done. I didn't reply. I just deleted his number. Over the next few months, I threw myself into work. The world slowly started making sense again. I began volunteering at a youth center, helping kids who'd been through tough relationships, broken homes. Somehow, teaching them about resilience helped me find my own. One of the kids, a 17-year-old named Noah, asked me once, "Why do people betray?" I thought about that for a long time before answering. Because sometimes they confuse desire for love and comfort for loyalty. But that's their mistake, not yours. He nodded slowly. "So you forgive them?" Eventually, I said, half smiling, "Not for them, but for yourself." That night, I realized forgiveness isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about freeing yourself from being defined by it. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that Ryan and Emily had broken up. Apparently, it ended badly. She accused him of cheating, the same pattern repeating itself. When I heard that, I didn't smile. I didn't feel satisfaction, just a strange calmness, like a wound finally sealing shut. A few days later, Ryan showed up at my place. I hadn't seen him in nearly a year. He looked tired, guilt-heavy in his eyes. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I hesitated, then nodded. He stood there for a long time before speaking. "I messed up, Adam. I lost the best friend I ever had, for something that wasn't even real." I didn't say anything. I kept telling myself it just happened, but the truth is, I made it happen, he admitted. "I was jealous. You always had everything together. The job, the relationship, the respect. I guess I wanted to feel that too." His honesty should have made me angrier, but instead I felt pity. "Ryan," I said softly, "you didn't lose me because you fell in love with her. You lost me because you stopped respecting what we had." He looked down, ashamed. "I don't expect forgiveness." "I know," I said, "open the door, but I still wish you peace." As he walked away, I realized something powerful. The person I was a year ago would have broken at this moment, but the person standing here now, he was free. Sometimes strength isn't loud. It's in choosing not to strike back. That night, I stood by my window, watching the city lights flicker below. And for the first time in months, I felt no pain, only gratitude. Because losing them taught me the most important truth. Some people are chapters, not your whole story. And mine was just beginning. Healing isn't a straight road. It's a winding path with broken glass, rain, and sometimes sunlight. After Ryan's visit, I thought closure would come easily. But the truth? Forgiveness didn't erase the memories. It just made them quieter. The laughter we shared, the plans I'd made with Emily, they didn't disappear. They just stopped haunting me. I started focusing on myself again. Work was going well. My boss noticed a change. "You seem different, Adam," she said one afternoon. "More focused." I smiled faintly. Maybe I finally stopped fighting the past. Outside of work, I found comfort in routine, early morning runs, reading before bed, and small adventures on weekends. I began traveling solo, something I never had the courage to do before. One weekend, I drove up to a mountain town about 3 hours away. It was peaceful, no phone service, no distractions. Just me, the cold wind, and the sound of rustling leaves. There, I met Lena, a travel photographer. She was sitting by the lake, camera in hand, waiting for the sunrise. I asked if I could sit beside her. "Sure," she said with a smile, "but you'll have to share the view." We didn't talk much at first, just silence and nature. Then she asked, "What brought you here?" Trying to find myself, I said honestly. She nodded thoughtfully. "Funny, most people lose themselves chasing someone else." That line hit deeper than she realized. We spent the morning walking the trails, talking about everything and nothing. Dreams, regrets, music, even heartbreak. She had her own story, a long-term relationship that ended when her fiancé left her for someone else. By the time the sun set, it felt like we'd known each other for years. Not in a romantic way, just two souls finding understanding in shared scars. When I returned home, something had shifted. I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt human. Weeks turned into months, and Lena and I kept in touch, exchanging photos, checking in, sharing progress on our personal journeys. She became a mirror, reflecting growth I didn't know I'd achieved. One evening, during one of our calls, she said, "You ever think betrayal might be a gift?" I laughed softly. "A painful one, maybe." "No," she said gently, "a necessary one, because it forces you to see who you are without everyone else's influence." Her words stuck with me. Maybe she was right. Maybe everything that fell apart was meant to clear space for something better. Around that time, I started mentoring at a community center full-time. There was a boy named Eli who reminded me a lot of myself at that age, hopeful but insecure. He once told me, "My best friend started dating the girl I liked. I feel so stupid for caring." I smiled sadly. It's okay to care. It means you had something real to give. But sometimes people take without knowing its worth. He looked at me curiously. "Did that happen to you?" I nodded. "Yeah, and for a while I thought it broke me, but it just rebuilt me differently." He grinned. "So you're better now?" I thought for a moment. Better isn't the word, just clearer. Teaching those kids became my therapy. Every story I heard reminded me that pain connects us, but healing defines us. Then, one evening, as I was locking up the center, I saw someone waiting by the door. Emily. My heart skipped, not from love, but from surprise. She looked different. Older, maybe. Tired. "Hey, Adam," she said softly. "Emily." I replied, cautious but calm. "I heard you're doing great things here," she said, glancing around. "You always had a good heart." I didn't know what to say. After a pause, she continued, "I wanted to say, I'm sorry, not just for what happened, but for the way I handled everything. You didn't deserve that." Her voice trembled. She wasn't the confident woman I once knew. She looked like someone trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. I took a deep breath. "It hurt, Emily. You both did. But I'm okay now." Tears filled her eyes. I wish I could say the same. There was silence, the kind that carries more meaning than words ever could. "Ryan," I asked finally. She shook her head. "We broke up months ago. He wasn't who I thought he was." I nodded slowly. "I hope you find peace." She gave a small smile. "I think you already have." When she left, I didn't feel anger or sadness, just closure. A quiet kind of ending that felt right. That night, I sat in my car, staring at the city lights. The reflection in the window showed a version of me I finally recognized, one who'd stopped waiting for apologies to heal him. Lena called later that night. "You sound different," she said. "I ran into my past today," I replied, "and I realize it doesn't control me anymore." She smiled through the phone. "Then maybe you finally found what you were looking for." Maybe I had. From then on, I started writing again, journaling every experience, every emotion, every lesson. Eventually, it turned into something more, a blog. I called it Rebuilt from Ruins. To my surprise, it grew. People started sharing their stories, thanking me for helping them heal through my words. Each message reminded me that pain, when shared, becomes purpose. A few months later, I stood in front of a small audience at a youth seminar, giving a talk titled Turning Betrayal into Strength. I looked out at the crowd, faces young and old, curious and broken, hopeful and scarred, and I said, "Sometimes the people you trust most will hurt you the deepest. But that pain, it doesn't define you. What defines you is how you rebuild afterward. Don't let someone else's mistake convince you you're unworthy of love, because you are." The room went silent, then filled with quiet applause. I smiled not for validation, but because I knew I'd finally turned my story into something that mattered. That night, I went for a walk by the river. The air was cool, the city lights dancing on water. I thought about everything, the friendship, the heartbreak, the journey. I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Ryan, not at Emily, because if they hadn't broken me, I wouldn't have rebuilt myself into someone stronger. The wind brushed against my face, and for the first time in years, I whispered to myself, "I forgive them. And I thanked him, and I meant it. A year passed since that night by the river. The night I finally said, I forgive them. I didn't realize then how much power those words carried. Forgiveness didn't erase what happened. It just stopped it from defining me. Life moved on, but this time, it wasn't dragging me with it. I was walking at my own pace. My blog, Rebuilt from Ruins, began growing faster than I expected. Thousands of readers found comfort in my story. People from different corners of the world sharing how betrayal, heartbreak, and loss had reshaped them too. I started getting invitations to speak at schools, podcasts, and mental health forums. Every time I stood behind a microphone, I remembered the version of me who once sat in silence, broken and afraid to be seen. Now I was standing and speaking. For him, one afternoon, I received a message request on social media. It was from Ryan. I read your latest post, he wrote. You've changed, man. I'm proud of you. I stared at the message for a long time. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was peace. I typed back, thanks. I hope you found your peace too. He replied, still trying. Guess I'm learning from you now. That was it. No drama. No reopening old wounds. Just quiet understanding that some bonds end, but not every ending has to be ugly. A few months later, Lena came to visit the city for a photography exhibition. It was the first time we met again since that mountain trip. When she saw me, she smiled. So this is the famous writer of Rebuilt from Ruins. I laughed. And this is the woman who taught me that betrayal can be a gift. We spent the evening walking by the waterfront. The city lights glimmered across the waves. The same city where my heart, once shattered, now looked beautiful again. So, have you forgiven him completely? She asked gently. I thought for a moment before answering. Yes, but more than that, I've forgiven myself. She nodded. That's the hardest part. Yeah, I said quietly. Forgiving yourself for trusting too much, for not seeing the signs, for thinking love was enough. Lena smiled softly, but it was enough, just not for them. Her words stayed with me for days. After she left, I started writing my first book, part memoir, part guide, about turning emotional pain into personal power. Every chapter felt like closure. Every word was a promise to never let the past steal my future again. Months later, the book was published. The night of the launch, I stood on stage, looking at the crowd, friends, readers, mentors. The lights were warm, but my heart felt warmer. As I spoke, I saw familiar faces in the audience. My sister sat in the front row, smiling proudly. But then near the back, I saw someone I didn't expect, Ryan. For a moment, everything froze. After the event, he approached me slowly. Didn't think you want me here, he said. I took a deep breath. A year ago, maybe not. But tonight, I'm glad you came. He hesitated, then said, I'm sorry again, Adam, for everything. I don't expect you to forget, but I just needed to say it face to face. I nodded. You already did the moment you stopped pretending. We both made peace in our own ways. He smiled faintly. You're a better man than I am. Not better, I replied softly. Just rebuilt. He shook my hand before leaving, and that simple gesture, that silent exchange, felt like closing the final chapter of a book that once consumed me. A few weeks later, I received an invitation to speak at a national youth summit. The theme was resilience, turning pain into purpose. Standing on that stage, I looked out at hundreds of young faces, each one carrying their own untold stories. I took a deep breath and began. A few years ago, I thought my life ended when my best friend and the woman I loved betrayed me. I lost trust, I lost direction, and I nearly lost myself. But here's what I learned. You don't lose yourself when someone betrays you. You lose them. You lose the illusion that they were meant to stay. Pain doesn't destroy you. It rebuilds you, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Forgiveness isn't about saying what they did was okay. It's about saying I won't carry this anymore. You can't rewrite what broke you, but you can write what you become after. The applause that followed wasn't just for the speech. It was for the journey. That night, when I got home, I sat by my window again, the same spot where I once cried over Emily, over Ryan, over everything I thought I'd lost. But now, the air felt different. Calm, complete. I opened my journal and wrote, maybe heartbreak doesn't destroy you. Maybe it's the universe's way of pulling you closer to who you're meant to be. As I closed the book, my phone buzzed. A message from Lena. Proud of you, Adam. You've come a long way. I smiled. Thanks. Guess I finally rebuilt the ruins. She sent a photo, a sunrise over the same mountain lake where we'd first met. The caption read, for every end that broke you, there's a beginning waiting to heal you. And as I looked at it, I realized something. I wasn't just healed. I was transformed, because betrayal didn't end my story. It simply gave it meaning. Epilogue, 1 year later. The book became a quiet success. People started recognizing me not as the man who was betrayed, but as the man who rose. One afternoon, while signing copies at a bookstore, a young woman approached me. I just wanted to say, your story helped me forgive someone who hurt me, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you for sharing it. I smiled. Then you've already won. She looked puzzled. Won what? Your peace, I said. That's the real victory. As she walked away, I realized something simple yet profound. Pain had once made me bitter, but forgiveness had made me free. And freedom, that was love's greatest revenge.